All right. So once again, good evening to all of you. So the same drill natin, no? We will be using the chat box for the for your responses para hindi naman ako mag-isa dito. So we will be flashing questions. You will be answering it by direct message if you wish, or if you want by everyone. So you would know whether you answered the item correct. Okay. So tomorrow, I'll try if we can have it by 7 to 7:30 because I'll be having a meeting ng parang hanggang 8 p.m. We can probably have the review by 8 p.m. I'll give you an announcement if ever. Okay? So for now, yun lang muna. So I think we could start now. I hope you have been reading a lot lately in preparation for your board examination, both for Gen Ed, Prof Ed, and your majorship. Okay, so the last part of our review, we will have our intensive review in terms of the concept that might probably come out in your board. Okay, so let's start. So you have your goal now. Keep it with you, keep the faith, and you'll be able to pass. Okay, so that's my fervent prayer. Hindi kayo makakatakot sa akin. I have the list of names who will be taking the board exam. So, okay. So, alam niyo naman, ugali ko. I've been very hands-on in terms of bio-sci major. So, we're praying that God will give you enough and adequate wisdom so that you'll be able to pass. So, I think this is the first question. Okay, so I'll be accepting some. Yeah, then they can just dito answer na lang later. So first for the first question, pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower. Let me have the pointer here. What type of pollination happens when the pollen of the flower pollinates the stigma of another flower coming from the same plant? Okay, A, cross-pollination, B, hybridization, C, self-pollination, D, self-fertilization. Okay, iba-iba nakikita natin sa chat box. Okay. Okay. So, the answer is, of course, that is self-pollination. No, the key word na pwede niyong makita dito is that this is actually transpired in coming from the same plant. So if actually it comes from the same plant, that can be considered as self-pollination. So basically, we have the two types of pollination. Your self-pollination versus cross-pollination. So self-pollination, pollen grains falling on the stigma of the same flower or of a different flower but of the same plant can be considered in this classification. While cross-pollination, pollen grains falling on the stigma of another flower of the same kind but on a different plant. Okay, so that's a good start. Okay, so question. How do you call the female part of the flower? Can you type it in the chat box? How do you call the female part of the flower? Okay. Okay. So pag female part of the flower, that is your stamen or pistil. Okay. So that is your pistil. Female pistil, diba? Sounds like. Then the stamen, because there's men there, that is the male part of your flower. That is correct. Okay. Pistika. Sabi dito, pistika daw. Okay. So basically, ayan yan, male, female. All right. So let's move on. So this is just another visualization of the cross-pollination versus self-pollination. So you can see here, the stamen or stamen, depending on your school. And then of course, you can see there the anther, the stigma in here. So let me accept some of the participants. So you can see also here that anthers produce no pollen grains which contain the male gametes, while the ovules produce here the female gametes. Alright? So when we say gamete, ano na nga ulit yung gamete? Pag nakita sa board exam, by majorship, gamete is also known as the, okay, what is gamete already? That is your sex cell. So gamete or sex cell. So pag nakita sa board exam, medyo iniba nila, no? Hindi ginamit yung sex cell, ginagamit nila gamete. That's just the same. So question, how do you call the female gamete? The female gamete in humans. Okay. Ano ang female gamete ng mga babae? That is of course the, yes, your egg cell. Tama, no? Question, meron bang other name for egg cell? Kung walang egg cell, ano hahanapin? Of course, your, that's correct, no? Pwedeng oocyte, no? Or ovum, or ova, no? Plural, ova, ovum, iisa. O pag tinanong, male gamete, male sex cell. Siyempre, alam niyo na yun. That is your, what? Spermatozoon. That's correct. So that's your male gamete, okay? Or spermatozoon, or sperm cell, or spermatozoa, no? For your plural. Okay, question number, next number. Which of the following would definitely be an imperfect flower? A, pistillate flower. B, a sessile flower. C, flowers without petals. D, flower without. Anong sagot? Sige, put it in the chat box. Okay. Okay, iba-iba, ano? Sige lang. Alright, so may A, may D. Okay. So, pag sinabi nating imperfect flower, tawag dito, we have here the prefix "im", which means not, diba? So, not perfect. So, not perfect there is of course your pistillate flower because it only contains the female gamete. No? So remember, pistil is the female, then stamen is the male. So therefore, it does not contain the two gametes there, so that can be considered as an imperfect flower. Question, what do you mean by sessile? So pag nakita sa board exam, sessile actually is an adjective which means not moving, no? O kaya nag-i-stay lang siya. So there are of course flowers, you know very well that plants are sessile, no? They just stay in the ground, for example. However, there are responses naman to stimuli where, for example, stem can actually follow, for example, the light. So you have your response to light, no? So natatandaan niyo pa ba? Sige nga, drill nga natin. Ano yung mga responses natin? If the plant, for example, respond to light, what do you call that particular response to stimuli? Response to light. That is your, that's correct, phototropism. How about the response to water? Pakilagay nga sa chat box. Water is hydrotropism. Kung phototropism light, hydrotropism water. How about to the gravity, response to gravity? Kaya yung roots tumutubo pababa, no? Geotropism, that's correct. Sometimes they call it gravitropism, no? How about, for example, response to touch? Okay, that is of course your thigmotropism. That's correct. So flowers without petals, flowers without leaves. Yeah, so letter A is the answer. So if it's a perfect flower that is hermaphroditic, no, bisexual, meaning it contains both the pistil and the stamen. Okay? So imperfect, examples of these imperfect are carpellate, tinatawag din siyang pistillate, and then staminate for those flowers which contain the male gamete or male sex cell. Okay? Next, fruits that become soft and fleshy upon maturity are fleshy fruits. They easily spoil when matured. Which of the following fruits are not fleshy? Okay, letter A. Yeah. Letter A. So, bumabaha ng letter A. So, we're talking about soft and fleshy. You're familiar with these fruits, diba? You have your chico, melon, tomatoes. Okay, so chichara is not a fleshy fruit. No? So, it's actually a legume, no? Kapamilya ng mga sitaw, yung mga yan, diba? Mga bagu beans. So, these are leguminous plant or legumes, yung may sunod-sunod na pod and seeds. Okay? So some types of fruits include, of course, our fleshy fruit. Meron tayong berry, like tomatoes, grapes, persimmon. So these are berries. So how do we call the scientific name of tomato again? Tomato, scientific name is? Tingnan natin. Natatandaan nyo pa ba? Ano na nga ba yun? Okay. O, nakalimutan nyo na? Okay. So that is, ano na ulit? Anong mayaman sa tomato? It is rich in lycopene. So sounds like, ano na nga ulit? Okay, that's correct, di ba? Lycopersicum iscolentum. Yes, admit natin. Okay, next. We also have pepo, no? So like for example, pumpkin, squash, watermelon, yan mga pepo, mga fruit na yan. We also have Hesperidium, mga citruses ng mga calamansi, no? Aggregate, strawberry, blackberry. So pag nakita mga aggregate flowers, yan yung mga in parang group siya in groups, di ba? Pag sinabing aggregate group, kaya nga tinanong natin last time when we say aggregate of cell, you have your tissue, aggregate of organ, you have your organ system. Then multiple, you also have pineapple as a multiple fleshy fruit, okay? Next question, most organisms have only one reproductive organ like in man. However, some organisms have both male and female gonads. What do you call organisms which have both the male and female reproductive organs or gonads? Your answers coming. Okay, may B, may A. Sige, ang tanong is, what do you call organs with both male and female gonads? So may bago na naman tayong term dito, di ba? Okay, may D din. Sige, iba-iba kayo. Sige. So, pag both, no? Ito yung isa to sa tricky, no? It's actually kind of tricky because the answer here is monoissue, no? Pardon sa spelling, that's C-I-O-U-S supposed to be. Okay? So monoissues, imbes, di ba, dapat, ay, di ba mono isa, kabaliktaran dito. So pag monoissues, it has both the male and female reproductive organ. Okay? Pag dioissues, isa. Okay? So this is one of the three key terms, no, in biology, no, in terms of majorship. So again, monoissues, both, dioissues, only one. Okay, pag sinabing gonad, we talk about reproductive organ. Okay, so gonad is reproductive organ. So kanina gamit is sex cell, gonad is reproductive organ. Question, how do you call the male gonad? O, yun yung tanong sa board exam. Anong sagot? Male gonad. Ng tao. So, male reproductive organ in other words. So, anong sagot? Okay, spermagenesis, oogenesis. So, but if we're going to be very specific of the organ, anong organ yung male gonad na natin? Starts with letter T. Yes, di ba? Testes. Nakalimutan nyo na. Baka tanongin nyo sa board exam, bakit testes? Okay, kasi dalawa yon, di ba? Pag isa lang, testes. The singular is test. But dalawa siya, testes. Okay? Question, how do you call the female gonad? O, yun ang tanong sa board. Female gonad. O, okay. Kung testes, ang male gonad, ano naman sa female? Correct, that's correct. That is the ovary. O, wag kakalimutan ha, teachers. Ayan, ovary. Correct. Sige, let's proceed. So here's the monoecious versus dioecious. No? So monoecious have male and female flowers on the same plant, while dioecious have male and female flowers on separate plants. So basically, magkahiwalay yun. So the male and the female flowers on a separate. Kaya pag mono, both sila na naandon on the same plant, dioecious, separate plants. While imperfect flowers do not have male and female parts on the same flower. That's why these flowers could be called pistillate for female or carpellate, and then for male, we call it, ano na nga ulit, staminate. Okay? Next question. Ayan, so we have the term hermaphroditism. It's not only true sa mga halaman, sa mga plants, meron din to sa, of course, lalong-lalo sa mga animals. Can you put in the chat box examples of hermaphroditic organisms? Or those that contains both the male and female organs? Yes, that's correct. So examples of this is uod, sabi dito sa chat box. That is earthworm. Okay? So earthworm is considered as a hermaphrodite. Question. What phylum does earthworm belong? Sang phylum yan? Nakabilong. Phylum, ano na ulit yung phylum ng earthworm? Very, ano yan, no? Easy question, no? In board exam. That is Annelida. Okay, pag walang Annelida, what type of worm is earthworm? It belongs to the phylum of blank worms. What is that blank? That is segmented worms. How about nematoda? What worms are nematoda? Annelida is to segmented. Okay? Nematoda is to black. Ano yan? That is round. Okay, how about last? Platyhelminthes. Ano naman yung platyhelminthes? That is flatworms or, yes, flat. Okay, correct. Next. So this is actually a visualization of how earthworms can mate by joining together and fertilizing each other's eggs. Yan. So later, a tube of mucus secreted by the clitellum forms an egg case which slips off the worm's body. Then young worms hatch out into the soil. So this is the clitellum. No? That is very tawag dito, very pronounced doon sa anatomy or structure of the earth. Okay, next. What is the type of locomotion exhibited by the cephalopods like the squids and octopus? A, gliding, B, hopping, C, jet propulsion, D, somersault. Okay. Alright, iba-iba. May C, may D, okay, may C ulit. May C ulit. Sige. Alright, so the correct answer for squids and octopus, they are exhibiting jet propulsion as their locomotory process, or the way they actually move, or the way they actually tawag dito. Ayan, ayan. So gliding actually, usually yan yung mga fruit bats natin, So ayan, nag-glide yung mga yan. Then hopping, usually yung mga tawag di example, kangaroos, jet propulsion, ito mga squid and octopus. Pag tinanong sa board exam, in what phylum do the squid and octopus belong? Okay, yan. Okay, that is mollusca or mollusk. Correct. So, what is the largest phylum again in the animal kingdom? Okay. Of course, sure, arthropoda. Okay, tingnan naman natin. Well, somersaulting, they tend to, diba, like, they tend to use their head, instead of feet. So ito, this is an example, meron pala ako dito. So, gliding, cephalopod locomotion or propulsion, like squids and octopuses, and then hopping like that of the kangaroo. While for somersaulting, you actually animals actually show acrobatic feat in which the feet roll over the head and return. So mga nagpara sila nag-a-acrobat. Ayan, mga somersaulting. So this is somersaulting kids and panda. Okay, what type of feeder is a panda? Okay. What type of feeder? Carnivore or herbivore? Okay, actually no, this panda is actually herbivore. Ano ba yung kanyang diet? Ano ba yung kanyang kinakain? What is the favorite food of panda? It's actually bamboo, 'di ba? O tatandaan no. O bamboo is what type of plant? Okay. Okay. Kala parang polar bear. Okay, so bamboo is a type of plant which, is a type of grass. So grass ito. So lumabas na rin yan sa board exam, no? So tatandaan, which of the following, pag nakita sa board exam, which of the following is a type of grass? Of course, alam niyo yan, bamboo. Okay. In Filipino, we call it kawayan. Correct. Question, ilang percent sa diet ng panda ang bamboo? Mga around how many percent? Do you have any idea? It's actually runs to around 90%. So pag ganun kataas ang percentage, anong klaseng ano yon? Anong klaseng animal? So we call them specialists. Okay? Ibig sabihin, they eat only very specific, kaya siya specialist, specific type of food. And this type of food for this panda is actually the bamboo or the grass. Okay? Tayo ba? Specialist ba tayo? Very specific lang ba yung kinakain natin? Isa lang ba? Okay. No, 'di ba? No, 'di ba? Oh. Correct. So anong tawag sa atin kung specialist si panda, ano ka tao? Sige nga. Ano ka? Isa kang average, isa kang letter G, starts with letter G. Gene, tatandaan niyo pa ba yun? Specialist versus generalist, 'di ba? Generalist, correct. Meaning we can eat, no? Kahit ano kinakain ninyo, no? So make sure lang na hindi sasakit ang tiyan ninyo. Alright, sige. Okay, next question. What part of the flower will later on become the pericarp of the fruit? A, ovary wall, B, ovule, C, pedicel, D, style. Okay. What is the answer, teachers? That is, what will become the pericarp of the fruit? Okay, meron atang stuck ng aking signal. So I cannot see yet any responses. Medyo hindi sure. Letter A. Okay. Actually, the answer here is correct. Letter A, the ovary wall. The ovary wall becomes the pericarp of the fruit. Okay, so to visualize that, we have here, ayan. So you can see here, no, the pericarp, no? So you have the endocarp, the mesocarp, and the exocarp. So basically, this actually is the ovary wall. And then, of course, you have your seed. Okay, next question. Specialized roots are roots that are modified to perform functions other than absorption and anchorage. Which of the following is an example of a specialized root? Oh, what very easy question ito. Kaya, sabi parang sige. Okay, so ano kaya ang sagot? Mukhang pare-pareho ang sagot nyo Okay, actually, a specialized root here is actually exhibited by the carrot. So this is actually a specialized root. The rest are actually what? The corms, the rhizomes, the tubers are actually specialized stems. Ayan. So, di ba? We have the corms, the tubers, the rhizomes, the bulbs. No, these are actually specialized stems. Example of rhizome, ano na mga example ng rhizome? You have your ginger. So ginger is an example of rhizome. You have your tuber. Anong example ng tuber? Your letter P, potato. That's correct. So that is your potato. Okay? So yung I ng potato nyo is actually a node. So pag tinanong sa board exam, what is actually the I's that you can find in the potato? These are actually the nodes. How about an example of a bulb? Can you give me an example of a bulb? Syempre, very obvious, di ba? So that is a bulb. That is an example of bulb is, of course, your onion. And you can see here the specialized yeast. Then, of course, you have your corms and some also specialized stems are actually runner and stem tendril, especially for the vines, di ba? Ano mga vines yung mga squash, mga sitaw, yan. May mga tendrils yan. And of course, some runners that you can actually propagate. When you cut this example ng mga runners, you have your pothos, no? If you are plantito, no? If you are planting pothos, no? That can be an example of runner. Okay? So these are some, no? Stolon, runner, rhizome. So we mentioned that tuber, tendrils, and thorns. So pag nakita nyo itong mga terms na to, these are actually modified stems. Okay? So stolon, horizontal stem grasses, some meats, runners, specials about ground stolon, strawberry or spider plants, rhizomes, horizontal stem, just at or below surface like iris, canna, ginger, bamboo. Then tubers, solid stem, storage, potato, caladium. Caladium, ito yung magaganda ring ornamental plants na if you are into plants, yan yung mga iba-ibang color. It could be merong mga green, meron ding pinkish, reddish, yan. Tendrils, examples are grapes, and of course, thorns, some cacti or so root types ito, no, in example is the carrot is actually exhibits the type of root called the taproot. Meron ding namang mga adventitious roots, prop roots, and fibrous, yung medyo makalat, no? Fibrous root system. Okay? In the conduction of water and minerals in plants, there are vessels or tissues where water and minerals pass through. What do you call this tissue? Water and minerals are the keywords. Casparian strip, endodermis, phloem, xylem. What's the answer? Okay. O, ano naman ang sagot? Okay, of course, that is your xylem. So, xylem is for your water and minerals. So, basically, these are the vessels, no, or tissues and plants that conduct, no, water and minerals. Okay? So, pag xylem, sinabi na natin, water and minerals, no, dead cells, tracheids, no, and then you have your living cells and phloem that naman passes through the organic compounds or sugar. Correct. So phloem sa photosynthesis because your sugar is the main product of your photosynthesis or what we call your glucose, which is of course an organic compound. Your sugars and starches. Okay. And then living cells give two members, no? So for xylem, unidirectional movement, while for phloem, it could be bidirectional movement, down, up, or side to side. Okay? So ayan. So for xylem, we have the transpiration. Remember last time we talked about transpiration, the pull of transpiration where water, the excess water can actually be evaporated to the atmosphere through the process of transpiration. And if, for example, the water is being moved upward, no, the plants through very narrow tubes, ang isang property na tinatawag natin is the capillarity action. No? So, mayroong capacity ang mga plants ng capillarity action kaya nadadala yung tubig, no, sa very narrow tubes up to the plant. And of course, this is triggered by the process of the pull of transpiration. Okay, and then of course, the term that we use in the distribution of these organic compounds or sugar or distribution, gaya na sinabi ni Ace dito, distribution of these sugars, these organic compounds is what we call translocation, no? From the source to the sink. Yan. Next. Casparian strip naman, it's actually bond of cell wall material in plants. that prevents water from entering the pericycle to produce root pressure. Remember, di ba, iba-iba yung movement ng water sa plant. So, pwedeng manggaling sa roots, pag nagdilig, may root pressure doon, pwedeng through the process, of course, of capillary action sa pagtaas ng water into narrow tubes. And then, of course, the transpiration where leaves actually give off or remove excess water out of the leaves through stomata. Okay? So, yan yun. Okay, next. Supratrophic nutrition involves feeding on soluble organism compounds obtained from dead animals and plants. A number of organisms have this type of nutrition. Which of the following organism is supratrophic? Euglena, mushroom, volvox, sponges. Ano, pag narinig niyo yung supratrophic, okay, that involves feeding on soluble organism compounds. Of course, that is, okay, may iba-iba, may A, may B, okay. So, basically, pag supratrophic, no, be reminded of your fungi. O pag fungi, what is an example of fungi here? That's correct, your mushroom. Okay, so this is an example of organism that is supratrophic. Okay, that is correct. Okay. So that is your mushroom. Okay. So the supratrophic nutrition, taking nutrition by organism from dead and decaying matter. So kaya pag nakita nyo, pag wala kayong nakitang supratrophic nutrition, saprophytes, ganyan din yun. Yung mga fungi natin, mga saprophytes, decaying or necrotic matter. So the organisms which use supratrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs or saprophytes or saproprobes. No? So example are fungi. Question, how do we classify mushroom? In what kingdom does mushroom belong? Yan, favorite nila yung mushroom sa board exam din. So ano na nga bang kingdom ni mushroom? Of course, that is kingdom based on the sixth kingdom classification, that is kingdom fungi. Right? So kingdom fungi. Okay, how do you call again the study of fungi? Okay. Okay. Type natin ulit. That is correct. Study of fungi, mycology. Okay, that's correct. Next. The four essential floral parts, petals, sepals, pistil, stamen, need to be present in order for a flower to be classified as complete. Which of the following is considered as complete flower? Very very elementary concept, diba? Kasi ito lagi na drawing sa mga libro sa biology, diba? To exhibit or to illustrate a perfect flower, or I mean a perfect or a complete flower. So of course that is your correct. Gomamela. Yes, correct. In other words, no, ano ba yung ibang pangalan ni gumamela? Meron pang ibang pangalan yung gumamela pag walang gumamela doon. Yes, hibiscus. So titignan nyo, ilalagay nyo sa board isasagot nyo hibiscus kung walang gumamela. Okay, so ayan siya. So that is your gomamela. Next, ayan, this is actually an example of a gomamela. All right, so for a while, no, I think I have a visitor again. Let me just wait lang po. Okay, I have received my my water bill. Yeah. All right. So this is actually number 1. Top 1 talaga si Yana. Okay, good luck. Ayan. Sige. So yan, no, stigma, you have the style there. Yan yung inaano nyo, no, talagang dinadissect nyo minsan. So if wala kayong nagagawa, dinadissect nyo, tapos yung pinaka-ano doon, you have the style and then makakita mo yung filament there. And then of course, stamen here, the petal, the pistil, the ovary here, and then of course, your calyx. Or tinatawag din, anong other term natin for calyx? Hindi nga siya ng chat box. Of course, that is your sepal. So petal and then your sepal here. How do you call the group of petals? Pag tinanong sa board exam, yung buo, yung ano, petal, 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 petal. How do you call that? Letter C. That is your, natin. Letter C, natandaan niyo pa ba? That is your, okay, actually that is your corolla, diba? Your group of petals. And then of course, your group of sepals, that is your calyx. Okay? So yeah, next. Ayan. All right, so you can see here also perfect versus imperfect, no? So perfect flower, sinabi na natin as a stamen and pistil, the same flower, while in imperfect flowers, the male sex organs or the female sex organs, but not both on the same flower. Okay, so yeah. All right, so you have here an example of a pollinator, a bee, no? So a bee and a flower, pag nakita sa board exam, that has a symbiotic relationship called mutualism. Okay? Next question. Ito. So, ayan. Ayan, nandito pala yung tinatanong ko. So, that is your calyx, no? For the group of sepals and then your corolla for the group of petals. So, tatandaan nyo yan. Okay? So, what else? Ayan. So, hiwalay yung stamen so that can be considered an incomplete flower. Nandito yung sa ovule, no? Or the ovary of the flower while the other has the stamen which is not part of the same tawag dito flower. Okay? Next question. The transport process involving photosynthetic byproducts from the source to a sinking plant is called BLAC. O, nabanggit ko to kanina. Conduction, transduction, translocation, or transportation. Photosynthetic byproducts, like of course your glucose and sugar, which is of course being transported by your phloem. Okay, kanina water sabi natin, 'di ba, is for xylem, but for the photosynthetic products or sugar carbohydrates, of course, your letter C, translocation. If xylem is to transpiration, phloem is to translocation from the source to a sink. Okay, the source of the sugar to the sink to be, for example, ang source natin will be from the leaf cell, kung saan doon nangyayari, no, in the chloroplast where the photosynthesis happens, and then ipupunta siya sa sink like the root cell. So from source to sink, we call it translocation. So water and soil nutrients are transported up through xylem while sugars are transported through phloem. Ay tatandaan. Okay? May chat ba? Okay. Thank you. Next. Transpiration, sinabi na rin natin to, no? It helps another process called the capillary action, no? Where water actually travels, no, through these narrow tubes, no? So water molecules are attracted to the molecules of the inside of the stem, and it is this attraction which will force the water out from the ground and around the plant. So pwedeng roots take up from the water from the soil, so we have root pressure, and then you can also have water traveling up through the plant through the process of capillary action. And then, of course, water loss by the process of transpiration through the pool of transpiration. Okay? Next. Ayan, Xylem Transports, sinabi na natin to, water can move by a variety of forces. It could be cohesion. So pag cohesion, parehong type of molecules, water to water. So water, no, hydrogen bonding to other water. So pwede siyang water to water molecule that could be cohesion. But pag adhesion, as different molecules, different substances relating to one another. So for example, hydrogen bonding to the walls of xylem. So water to the xylem, water molecule to the xylem. Okay. Then of course, capillary action, passive movement of water through a narrow tube, okay, against gravity, while transpiration pull is the suction process or pressure from the leaves, which is also considered to be the evaporation of plants. So pag nakita, evaporation and plants, transpiration. So pag tinanong din sa board exam, do plants contribute to water to the evaporation of water? Yes. What process is that? Transpiration. Okay. Next, some parasites need more than one host. Examples of these are the tapeworms and liver fluke. What do you call the host where adult from the parasite lives? A, primary host. B, secondary host. C, tertiary host. D, none of the above. Anong sagot? Okay, sige lang. Not sure, sige. So actually dito, kung titignan natin, sinasabi na, eto pala, anong tawag natin doon sa host na kung saan nag-grow hanggang adult stage yung parasite. So ang tawag natin sa host na yon is actually the primary host. Okay, so pag nakita ninyo yon, example ay ng mga parasite na namamahay hanggang sa adult stage nila ay mga tapeworms and liver fluke. Question, sino ang host ng mga to? O, sino ang host ng mga tapeworms and liver fluke? Pwedeng tao or animals. Pigs. Yan. Animals like pigs. Ayan. So, these could actually, these pigs, no, these animals, the human can actually be considered as the primary host. So, pag nakita sa board exam, ano ang other term natin for primary host? Ang tawag natin doon ay definitive host. So, the primary host is also termed as definitive host, while the secondary host is also called as the intermediate host. What's the difference between the two? Ang definitive host dito, they support the sexual reproductive form of parasites, okay, until they actually become in the adult stage. While for the secondary host, organisms that support the immature or non-reproductive form, usually hindi umaabot sa adult stage. So here, sexual reproduction of the parasite occurs here, gaya ng kanina, naging adult, while asexual reproduction of the parasites occurs here. So formation of the zygote occurs in the primary host, while sexual differentiation of the parasites occurs in the secondary host. So definitive host of Plasmodium, for example, is a female Anopheles. Question, what insect is this genus Anopheles is talking about? Ang mga Anopheles ay mga insect na to? Mga mosquito. So basically, si mosquito pala ay merong parasite. So ano yung definitive host niya? Si Plasmodium. Kaya pag nakita sa board exam, ano yung parasitic protease na meron sa mosquito na nagko-cause ng tinatawag na malaria, that is Plasmodium. Natanong na natin ito nakaraan. While the intermediate host of Plasmodium is human. So pwedeng tawag dito, mapunta ang Plasmodium sa human, but it will not actually thrive until the adult stage. Okay? Next. What term did Mendel use to call the variable responsible for the trait of an individual? A, phenotype. B, genotype. C, D, heritable factor or heritable factor. Okay, may B, may D. That's correct. May C. Okay, actually, tama, no? Tama naman is, ito ay actually heritable factor na tinawag na later on naging tinawag na gene. Okay, so yan ang itatanong nyo ha. Ito yung unang term ni Mendel, heritable factor. It's a factor kasi that has these specific trait that will be passed on from parents to offspring. Okay, so anong sumunod sa heritable factor? That is the gene. Okay? So anong pinagkaiba ng phenotype sa genotype? Okay, so hindi ko nilagay. So pag phenotype, they actually talked about the physical characteristics. It can be seen, that's correct. Physical phenotype. Okay, ano yung nakikita niyang physical characteristics? Genotype, gene. So ibig sabihin genetic component, genetic makeup. So usually sa Punnett square, yung mga letters na ginagamit nyo, the small and the small k, the uppercase and the lowercase are actually representations of the genotype. And if you are being told to, for example, identify a specific characteristics out of the genotype, yun na yung inyong phenotype. Okay? So a gene is a heritable factor that consists of a length of DNA and influences a specific characteristic. That is why the parents pass on these genes that contains the specific traits. Okay, so it is made up of DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. No, it influences specific characteristics such as height, eye, color, blood type, and can be passed on to offspring by the parents. Ayan. So we have here the genotype. Yan yung sinasabi ko sa inyong mga letters na ginagamit natin in Paniscare an organism genetic information. So pag nakita kayo ng parehong capital letter, both uppercase letter, we call it homozygous dominant. Okay? So pag parehong uppercase at pag parehong lowercase, we both call them homozygous. Homo because they are the same. The same in size, the same in case. No? This is uppercase, homozygous dominant pag malaki, then pag maliit, homozygous recessive. Paano pag magkaiba? We call it heterozygous. Okay, tatandaan. Okay? So the phenotype is the set of observable physical traits. So if the homozygous dominant is purple and homozygous recessive is white, then purple and white are actually the phenotype. Okay, these are the physical traits. Okay, and because the dominant here is purple, then the flower that we have here, the physical trait is still purple. Okay? Ayan. Which organelle releases oxygen? A. Chloroplast. B. Golgi apparatus. C. Mitochondria. D. Ribosome. O, yan ang tanong sa major. Okay? Anong sagot? O, anong organelle kaya? Remember that oxygen is considered to be the byproduct of photosynthesis or waste product of photosynthesis. Question, where does photosynthesis happen? The answer is the same. No? That is letter A. So chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place, where photosynthesis occur. And so that is the organelle that would actually release your oxygen. Okay, question. Third, site of, sabi mo kanina, site of photosynthesis, C, chloroplast. Saan naman ang site of protein synthesis? Ano sabi niya? Dalawa na mali. No, ayan, at least ma-remember niya siya. Sige, pag site for protein synthesis, ang isasagot is ribosome. That's correct. Sir, hindi yun yung tanong. Site for cellular respiration ang tanong. What is the answer? Site for cellular respiration. Diba? Panay site itong mga to. Mitochondrion or mitochondria. Again, chloroplast, site for photosynthesis. Mitochondrion, site for cellular respiration. Ribosome, site for protein synthesis. Well, Golgi apparatus is in charge with the packaging, sorting, modifying of the proteins in the cell. Okay? Ayan. So we have here the light reaction where water and light are actually the raw materials and it will actually release your oxygen. And this happens in the chloroplast. Ayan, chloroplast. This whole is a chloroplast. While for Calvin cycle or your carbon metabolism, you have your carbon dioxide as raw material, and the product is of course your C6H12O6. Ano yon? Ano yung C6H12O6? That is your sugar or glucose. Next. Ayan. So just to differentiate the animal from that of the plant cells. So we hear here, so most of the time, the presence of centrioles and centrosomes, for animal cells, while for plant cells, no centrioles and centrosomes. Then for animal cells, no chloroplast and other plastids because animal cells do not create or manufacture its own food. Therefore, animals are heterotrophic. Okay? Plant cells, on the other hand, have chloroplast, and other plastids. So ang term natin itong mga plastids. An example of a plastid is chloroplast. Okay? Then animal cells usually small vacuoles while plant cells have large central vacuoles. Ano ang function ng vacuole? Storage. Okay? While plasma membrane only, while plant cells, in addition to the plasma membrane, is the cell wall. Question. What is the component of the cell wall of plants again? The major component of the cell wall of plants, that is cellulose. How about for the cell wall of fungi? Cell wall of fungi, chitin. That's correct. How about cell wall of eubacteria? Cell wall of eubacteria, letter P starts with letter P, peptidoglycan. Okay, galing, di ba? O, sige. Then, of course, lysosomes, no, in animal cells are there, while in plants is very uncommon. Okay? So, anong ginagawa ulit ng lysosomes? What is the major function of lysosome? Sige nga, can you put in the chat box? That is correct. Digestion or intracellular digestion. So pag nakita sa board exam, lysosome, intracellular digestion. Kaya siya tinatawag na suicide sac dahil pupunta dito yung mga worn out, mga old na organelles, and then ida-digest niya yun. And then, after digestion, will actually be removed out of the cell. Okay? So these are some of the plastids, no, that we know, you have your chloroplast, which contains the green pigment called the chlorophyll that absorbs sunlight in photosynthesis. So they produce and store glucose. We also have the chromoplast, which contain the carotenoids, red, orange, and yellow pigments. No? So these are found mostly in flowers and fruits. Okay? If chloroplast, for example, contain the green pigment, chromoplast contain the red, orange, and yellow called the carotenoids. While leucoplasts contain no pigment and used to store starch. Okay? So yan yon. So these are some of the plastids, no, that we know. Okay? Next. Why do vendors sprinkle watered fruits and vegetables that they sell during warm days? A, it adds minerals to fruits and vegetables. B, it removes pesticides from fruits and vegetables. C, it prevents minerals from escaping from fruits and vegetables. Letter D, it replaces water lost by the cells of fruits and vegetables to the surrounding. Okay, so my D. Okay, so that's correct. Okay, so that is because of, yes, it has to replace the water lost by the cells of fruits and vegetables to the surrounding. So that is correct. Okay? Ayan, kaya makikita nyo lagi yan, yung mga nasa market, yung mga vendors. Okay? Which of the following is the function of the lysosome? Protein synthesis, intracellular digestion, processing and packaging, production of hydrogen peroxide. Okay. Siyempre, di ba? Sinabi na natin kanina. Okay, sige nga. Ano yung letter A? Protein synthesis. That is, ano na nga ulit yung protein synthesis? Kanina na yon. Ribosome. Letter B, that is correct. Lysosome. How about processing and packaging? Letter C. Kanina yung processing and packaging? That is Golgi. Okay? How about production of hydrogen peroxide? Starts with letter P. Pag nakita sa board exam, production of hydrogen peroxide, letter P. Pero, kalimutan nyo na siya, pero C. So, pag nakita sa board exam, yes, that's correct. Peroxisome, production of hydrogen peroxide. Okay? So, next. Ayan, so digesting food, no, digesting organelles, digesting cells, yan ang trabaho ni lysosome sa digesting food. So we also have here digesting organelles, lalo pag worn out na, and then of course digesting cells. Okay? Next. What is the destination of the vesicles formed at the smooth endoplasmic reticulum? A, rough endoplasmic reticulum. B, plant cell vacuole. C, lysosome. D, Golgi apparatus. Sino ang ano ang magiging destination niya? Of course, yan ay, that is correct. The Golgi apparatus. Ayan. Other name for Golgi apparatus, Golgi, pag walang Golgi apparatus, Golgi, tinatawag din siyang Golgi complex, ano pa? Golgi apparatus, Golgi complex, Golgi, letter B. Okay, Golgi bodies. Question, sinong naturalist or sinong biologist ba yan si Golgi? Anong first name na ni Golgi? Nakatanda niyo pa ba? Letter C. Yes, si Camilo Golgi. Alright, question. Paano ba yan? Okay, ito yan actually. No? So from the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, remember that we have two endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is called rough because there you can see there the presence of ribosomes. They work closely together. No? The rough endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosome. So that's their team, their tandem. While smooth endoplasmic reticulum, wala yan. Walang attached ribosomes. So from the smooth endoplasmic reticulum through the vesicles, it will go to what we call the Golgi apparatus. No? So that is on the process, no, of the transportation, especially of the proteins. Okay. Next, pairing of nitrogenous bases in DNA is specific. Which base or bases can form hydrogen bonds with adenine? O, sinong asawa ni adenine? Okay. Oh, this is something to do with your DNA base pairing, right? Okay, that's correct. Okay, we of course have thymine. Ano bang ginagamit ninyong mnemonics dyan? The A, T, C, G, or the GCAT? G is to C, A is to D. So therefore, adenine pairs with thymine. Okay? Yes. Okay. Adenine pairs with thymine, GCAT or GCAL. And then, of course, guanine pairs with cytosine. Question. What is being replaced naman in RNA? What is being replaced by thymine? Uracil. So uracil, kaya GCAT, GCAL. No? Sa RNA, GCAL. That is your uracil. Okay? Ngayon, pag tinanong sa board exam, okay, syempre majorship, di ba? Anong klase, no? Itong adenosine, okay, or adenine and guanine ninyo, these are actually purines, okay? So these are purines while your thymine and cytosine is actually pyrimidines. Okay, so purine, adenine, and guanine, then pyrimidine, you have your thymine and cytosine. That's correct, uracil. Okay. The next. When is the best time to study the morphology of a chromosome? Telophase, S-phase of the interphase, prophase, or metaphase? Morphology has something to do with the study of the structure. So kung gusto mong malinaw, maayos, mo makita yung structure, anong phase? Oh, ang kailangan para kitang-kita mo yung chromosomal structure. That is correct. That is metaphase. So pag nakita ito sa board exam, it is in the metaphase. Naka-align kasi sila sa gitna, at the center. Okay? So basically, this is the best time that you're going to, you'll be able to study it. Okay? Question, ano to? Ano mga red dito na parang dynamite? How do you call them? These are the letter C. I-chat natin. These are actually the cilia, centrosome. Anong organelle yan? That can only be found in your animal cell. Yes, that's correct. These are your centrioles, dynamite-like organelle, no? Which is very helpful in cell division. Okay? Next. So then the metaphase stage, so alam nyo yan, alignment of chromosomes with a mitotic spindle at the center of the equator of the cell. And this is actually considered the shortest stage of mitosis. Okay? Shortest stage of mitosis is metaphase. The diploid chromosomes number of man is 46. What is the chromosome number of the human sperm? A, 22 autosomes plus a sex chromosome. B, 23 autosomes plus a sex chromosome. C, 22 autosomes. D, 23 paired chromosomes. Okay, pag nakita sa board exam to, ang tinatanong natin, sinabi na natin, no, diploid chromosome is 46. But ano yung chromosome number daw ng human sperm? Okay, that is, again, iba-iba, may A, may B. Okay, actually, okay, dahil 46 siya, so kailangan yung sa sperm we have 23. So out of 23, so dapat yung 22 doon ay body chromosomes, while the other one, the 23rd one, is the sex chromosome. Remember, di ba, sinabi natin last time, autosomes pertains to the body chromosomes, and of course, you have the sex chromosome. Okay? Question. How do you call the sex chromosome of male? The male sex chromosome. What is the male sex chromosome? Okay. Okay, let's admit. Of course, that is your XY. Okay, XY is for the male chromosome. How about the female chromosome? Yes, your XX. Okay, question. Ito lang, no, pakita lang natin, no. So we have 46 chromosomes. So the father has 222 autosomes, your body chromosome, plus the sex chromosome X or Y. That's why XY yan. Then the mother, the same 22 autosomes, and then you have your one sex chromosome XX. Okay? So basically, you can see here the sperm cell or sperm gamete and the egg gamete or the egg cell, or we call it also the ovum or ova. You can see here, tawag dito, the anatomy of the sperm cell, no, the acrosome. You can see here the mitochondria, and of course here the egg. Question: where do we get the mitochondria na meron tayo? Is it from the sperm cell or from the egg cell? Saan galing ang mitochondria natin? Is it from the sperm cell or from the egg cell? Sino nagbigay? Is it si tatay or si nanay? Okay, that's correct. From the egg cell. So, thank you, mother, for your mitochondria. Ayan. So, we also have here, I just would like to emphasize here, no, the arms, no, the P arm, no, of the chromosome and the Q arm. And at the center, you have your centromere. And then you have at the apex, the telomere. And of course, your base pair, the G is to C and A is to. That composes the deoxyribonucleic acid. And then, pag nakita sa board exam karyotype, this is actually the photograph of the complete diploid set of your chromosomes, especially, for example, human chromosomes, no, in homologous pairs. Ayan. Okay. And arranged in order of decreasing size. So you can see here, no? So ano to? Ano tong karyotype na to? Babae o lalaki? Sige nga. Based on the illustration. Male or female? Diba? Alam na alam niyo na yan. Because ayan, no, XY, that is male. Question. Sir, you made mention that humans have 22 pairs of autosomes. Okay. Then the other pair is for sex chromosome. And then you mentioned that it is homologous pair. So usually paired, ano siya, dalawa. Meron bang possibility na maging tatlo? Kunyari, yung 21, may isa pa dyan na chromosome. Okay, how do you call that particular phenomenon? Kapag nagkaroon ng tatlo, yung isang sequence, for example, we call it trisomy. That's correct. So, pag tinanong sa board exam, tatlo itong nasa 21, trisomy 21. How do you call that particular syndrome? That's correct. Chat natin. That is Down syndrome. So, trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. So, never ever call them mongoloid. Okay? So, we have a politically correct or medical term for that. Okay? So, next, which of the following carbohydrate is a ketose sugar? Sige. A. Mannose, B. galactose, C. glucose, D. fructose. Okay. Pass. It's okay. So may D, may C, may A. So universal ang mga sagot natin. So pag nakita ketose, ayan, that is actually fructose or your fruit sugar, no? So this is actually fructose, no? To visualize, meron tayo ditong aldose and ketose. So example sa mga aldose, ano, okay, syempre ang iyong very common glucose, then galactose, then ribose, then you have your glyceraldehyde. For ketose, ayan, the very famous fructose or fruit sugar, then ribulose, and dihydroxyacetone. Okay, so tatandaan nyo, ketose, fructose, aldose, glucose. O, lusot ang hula. So pag hindi nyo alam, no, medyo ano, okay, so make sure that you give your intelligent guess. Pero dahil alam na natin yan, so titignan yan sa board exam. Okay? Next, a new trait not previously present in a species which continues to appear in succeeding generations is called a plant. Not previously present. A mutation, B heterozygote, C polyploidy, D disjunction. What is the answer? Teachers, okay, may A, sige. Pa, may A ulit. Alright. Okay, syempre that is mutation. So there is actually a tawag dito, not being present, no, in the previous species that continue to appear, that is what we call mutation, and it has something to do with the change, no, in nucleotide sequence of DNA. Remember that the nucleotide is a building block of your nucleic acid. An example of nucleic acid is your DNA. So mutagens, no, ito yung mga agents ng mutation, are substances which can induce mutations. These can be chemicals, radiations, or viruses. Kaya pag nakita sa board exam, Gen Ed Science tinatanong, in what way or in what process can new species be possible? Pag nakita nyo doon radiation, ayan, posible yun. Kasi it can actually induce mutation. So the changes that occur in DNA mutation are reflected in replication, transcription, and translation. This is part of your central dogma. Okay, so statistically out of every 10 raised to 6 cell divisions, 1 mutation takes place. Okay, next, what are required during the light-dependent reaction? A, light and carbon dioxide, B, light and water, C, water and carbon dioxide, D, light and oxygen. If I remember, you have your tawag dito, the light reaction and the Calvin cycle. So ano daw ang required pag sa light dependent reaction or the light reaction? Okay, remember, sa light reaction, anong kailangan nating raw materials? Anong laging kasama ni light? Siyempre kasama si water. Tama, no? Light, okay? Light and water, anong ipoproduce niya? Oxygen. Ano yung sa kabila? Carbon, anong ipoproduce niya? Glucose. Carbon dioxide, I mean, ang ipoproduce niya? Glucose. To visualize that, ayan. So meron tayo, di ba, the light-dependent reaction or light reaction. We need sunlight and water. Okay? So that you'll be able to have your oxygen as the byproduct of the photosynthesis, which happens in the light reaction phase of photosynthesis. Question, saan nangyayari? Of course, in the chloroplast. So the energy from sunlight is absorbed, water molecules are broken down, and oxygen is released. While on the other hand, the light-independent reaction, or what we call your Calvin cycle, or carbon metabolism, we need the material carbon dioxide. And then what will actually be the product? That is your 6-carbon sugar, 6-HLO6, or glucose. Okay? Tatandaan, light reaction, light and water, it will produce oxygen. Dark reaction, or I mean, Calvin cycle, what do you need? Carbon dioxide. What will it produce? Sugar or glucose. Okay? So that is on the 2 stages of your photosynthesis. Okay? So ayan yun. Light and of course your water that will release oxygen, and of course carbon dioxide that will give us sugar for Calvin cycle. So, tanong, saan nangyayari ang light reaction ng photosynthesis? Okay. Sige nga, paki-chat nyo nga, saan nangyayari? In what part of the chloroplast nangyayari ang light reaction? Baka ganun ka-detail ang tanong kasi ng PRC later on. So, dapat alam niyo yun. The answer would be, in what part of the chloroplast? It's in the thylakoid membrane. Okay, so tatandaan, it's in the thylakoid membrane. Saan naman nangyayari ang Calvin cycle? Diba? Saan naman nanggagaling ang nangyayari ang Calvin cycle? That is in the stroma. Okay? So, thylakoid membrane and then stroma. Okay? So, yan. So, next. Ayan, just to ano lang to, no? Alam nyo na yan, to visualize. So, we have here the thylakoid membrane for light reaction and stroma for the Calvin cycle. Tinatawag din tong carbon metabolism or dark reaction. Although yung dark reaction kasi parang hindi masyadong ano siya. No? Although light reaction, dark reaction, pero mas tinatawag siyang Calvin cycle. It's more correct to say Calvin cycle. Okay? A man and woman who both have uppercase B and lowercase b genotypes at a locus will produce what proportion of small case B and B children? A, 100%, B, 75%, C, 50%, D, 25%. So, Punnett squaring lang yan, diba? Parehong B, uppercase B and lowercase b ang parents. Sige. Sige. Try nyo nga i-solve. May ballpen pa ako. O, ilan? Okay. Yes, may. Sige, i-wait daw natin. Okay, anong hinahanap? Ilang percent o what proportion yung small case or tinatawag natin, this is heterozygous and this is homozygous recessive. So, ilan ang homozygous recessive? Ako, iba-iba kayo Okay, actually it's 25%. Bakit naging 25%? O, tignan natin. Sabi natin, parehong heterozygous ang parents. So, capital B, small b, capital B, small b. Okay? Ang hirap maganda, no? Uppercase B times uppercase B. Wait. Uppercase B times uppercase dapat B pala to. B and B. Then, small case B and uppercase B and uppercase B and B. Then uppercase B and B, so that is B and B. Then lowercase, that is recessive. So ilan yan? Ay, dalawa ba? Ano bang sabi ko? Both have B and B. Ito kasi tinatanong is tawag dito recessive. Tama, di ba? O, i-correct ko lang tong B and B ko. Wait lang. Dapat yon is parehong capital. Yung PowerPoint ko. Then, tignan natin. Tama naman yung computation ko sa aking papel. So, ngayon, ang tinatanong is proportion. So, let me go back my screen. Ito na siya. Corrected screen. Tama ba? O. Ilan ngayon ang percent? Dalawang small b yung isa, sir. Saan doon, Ace? Saan yung dalawang small b? Tama daw ako. Okay, sige. Tama, di ba? So, ilang percent yung iisa dyan? So, that is 25%. Correct? O, ayan yung ano natin. Balik tayo sa tanong. Ayan. So, the answer would be 25% because there is only one recessive, one homozygous recessive na small case na BN. Alright? So, that is 25%. Question, ilan ang heterozygous? How many percent is heterozygous traits? Pakilagay nga sa chat box, 50%. Kasi dalawa yan eh. Let me put the lasers. Okay, ito. 1 to 50%. Iisa, 25%. How many percent is homozygous dominant? How many percent is homozygous dominant? Yes, 25%. 1 is to 4. Okay. Yeah. Next. Ayan. Ayan. Ayan yung kanina, no? So this is, for example, another example, no? So seed shape tayo. So ang alias natin is capital R is round, uppercase R, and then lowercase r is wrinkle. So let's cross the round seeds times round seeds, no? So the parents are both round seeds. Okay. So heterozygous round. Okay. So ganun din. Okay. So we just put no heterozygous, and then we will actually have the same results. Wherein homozygous dominant is 25%, homozygous recessive is 25%, and heterozygous is 50%. So our phenotype is, of course, capital or uppercase R, heterozygous, and homozygous recessive. So the phenotype, round, wrinkled. So dalawa lang, round and wrinkled. So the ratio, the genotypic ratio is 1:2:1. Bakit ganon? Isa lang, dalawa, isa. 1:2:1. So phenotypic ratio, ilan ang round? Capital R, capital R, capital R, tatlo. Versus small r, isa. So 3:1. Okay? So this is a basic Punnett square. Okay? Next question. Meron pa. Sige nga, try nyo nga to. Try on your end, no? Tapos magbibigay ako ng guide question. Red hair is dominant over blonde hair. Make a cross between a heterozygous red hair. O, alam mo na, pag heterozygous, di ba? It has uppercase and lowercase. Okay? Heterozygous and a blonde. O, walang sinabi, no? Blonde lang. Okay, sige nga. Sige nga, gawin nyo nga siya. And then I'll give questions. Papatype ako ng yes kapag ready na kayo to answer my question. Okay, tapos na ba? Sige nga. Can you say done if you're done doing the Punnett square? So again, the first parent, the parent A is heterozygous and the parent B is blonde. Okay, done. Sige. Question. How many percent, no, in the proportion, okay, is homozygous recessive? Ilan ang homozygous? How many percent is homozygous recessive? Para makita ko, ma-visualize ko kung tama kayo. Okay, may nagsagot, 50%. Okay, that's correct. How many percent is heterozygous? How many percent naman is heterozygous? Still 50. That is correct. So, tingnan natin. So, ito siya, di ba? So, the first parent is heterozygous while the second parent is blonde. Hindi sinabing ano, pero blonde. And you know, blonde is represented by the recessive trait. And so, para maging blonde yan, dapat small case ang mauna. So, that is blonde. So, that is 50% heterozygous and then 50% homozygous recessive. Okay? So, alam niyo na yan. So, what percent of the option will have red hair? O, question, ilang percent daw yung magkakaroon ng red hair? Ang sagot ay? Yes. 50%. Ayan o. Red hair. And of course, the blonde is 50. Okay? Ayan. So let's try some more, no? So tignan natin last na to. In pea plants, tall are dominant over short. Construct a Punnett square for heterozygous tall. So alam niyo na yan, heterozygous tall. And a short pea plant. Okay, and a short pea plant. Dali lang yan, no? Kahit hindi nyo na anuhin. Okay? Sige, what are the percentages of the phenotype? Sige. I assume na tapos na kayo kasi the same lang naman yan doon sa previews. So, ito siya din. Okay? So, what are the percentage of the phenotypes? Ilan ang percentage ng phenotypes? What are the phenotypes? Of course, the tall and the short. So, ilan ang tall? Ako, namamalik mata ata kayo. Ilan ang tall? O ako namamalik mata. We're talking about phenotype muna. O, di ba dalawa lang ang phenotype natin, physical, tall versus short. So, dalawa. So, 2:2 or 1:1. Kayo niloloko niyo ako. 50% tall then 50% short. Pero kung ang tatanong is genotypic ratio, ganun din naman. Okay, 2:2. Pareho lang. Okay? O wag na yan, okay na yan. The same lang din yan. Lahat ng to ay maging heterozygous. So hindi ka magkakaroon ng black eye. So pag lahat tawag dito heterozygous, hindi mag-occur ang recessive trait. Okay? So next. Who among the following scientists initially laid down the first medical theories based on scientific experiment? A. Hippocrates. B. Galen. C. Aristotle. What's the answer? Okay. Yes. Actually, it's Hippocrates. Di ba remember Hippocrates is considered to be the father of what? Siyang father of medicine, di ba? Hippo, touch, di ba? So yan, Hippocrates, touch, father of medicine. Because in medicine, you have to have a healing touch with the help, of course, of science. So Hippocrates considered the father of medicine, while Plato is actually the pupil of Socrates, so influenced by the death of Socrates, and set up his own school known as the Academy. So pag tinanong sa board exam, who was this philosopher who actually set up his or founded the Academy, it was actually Plato. Okay? So one of the greatest and most influential thinker of all time. Okay? Ayan. Si Galen naman, tinatawag siyang Galen of Pergamon or Aelius Galinos or Claudius Galinos is actually originator of the experimental method in medical investigation. And throughout his life, dissected animals in his quest to understand how the body functions. Parang there was a story pa na mahilig din siyang magnakaw ng mga cadaver para lang gamitin for dissection. Okay? So some of his anatomical and physiological observations were accurate. For example, he proved that urine was formed in the kidney as opposed to the bladder, which was common. So his most important discovery was that arteries carry blood. Okay? So isa yan sa kanyang pinaka-importanting discovery. Question, siya rin ba ang nakadiscover ng blood circulation? Yes or no? Pakilagay sa chat box. Si Galen din ba ang sa blood circulation? No. O sino pala ang sa blood circulation? WH. WH. Yes, it's actually William Harvey. Tama? Opo. So that is William Harvey. Ayan. So kaya natatandaan nyo yan. Okay. Question. Systematize the science of anatomy and develop the scientific method. So ayan din si Galen. Basta wala daw blood. Okay. Yes. Okay. So next, during the Egyptian times, the decimal system was developed. What nature of science can be associated in this event? A, science is quantitative, B, science demands evidences, C, scientific knowledge is durable, or D, science is a blend to logic and imagination. So decimal system. Science is? Yes, syempre, no? Science is quantitative. So when we say quantitative, more of numbers, numerical, qualitative, more of words and descriptions. Okay, so this is part of your bio research. Okay, so we have type of data recorder, observation, or items of information that you can use to analyze for analysis. So it can fall into qualitative or descriptions rather than measurements, or quantitative or recorded measurements, which are sometimes organized into tables and graphs. And so that's part of your research. Question. Where are the genetic materials of bacteria found? A, nucleoid region. B, ribosome. C, nucleus. D, capsule. Tingnan natin. Okay, because bacteria are composed of what we call prokaryotic cell. Okay, therefore, they lack what we call membrane-bound organelles and nucleus. So therefore, the genetic material cannot be found in nucleus, And so this can be found in the nucleoid region. So tatandaan na, bacteria, nucleoid region. Eukaryotic nucleus. Okay, question. Ayan, sige. Question, alin nga dito ang control center of the cell? Control center of the cell. Nasasagot si nucleus. Actual board exam yan kasi favorite lagi nila yan. Control center. Pag walang nakalagay na control center, brain of the cell. Okay? So ayan. So ayan no. So makikita ninyo dito no sa yung sa DNA nucleoid region, ayan dito. Okay? And then you have your ribosomes, the cytoplasm and the flagellum. Okay? So how do you call again the yung tawag dito, site for protein synthesis? Meron din ba yon sa bacteria, ang site for protein synthesis? Yes, ayan, no? Kitang-kita nyo naman. Okay? Next, which does not belong to the group in the classification of bacteria? Alin daw ang hindi kasama sa classification of bacteria? Tetrad, Coccus, Bacillus, Sarcinae. Okay. Okay, medyo hindi sure yung iba. Okay lang yan. So, it's actually Bacillus. Bakit, no? Bakit naiba si Bacillus? Okay, Tetrad, Coccus, and Sarcinae are actually part of your coccus, no? It's actually a part of the round bacteria. These are examples of round bacteria. Bacillus kasi are rod-shaped bacteria. Okay? So, tignan nga natin yung round, mga examples ng round, mga coccus, ayan. So, mga coccus, ayan yung coccus nyo, tetrad, sarcinae, staphylococci or staphylococcus, streptococci or streptococcus. So, these are round shape. Kita nyo naman, mga round. Pag mga rod naman, ROD, these are bacillus. Coccobacillus, Bacillus diplobacilli, Palisade, and Streptobacillus. Ang lagi tinatanong si Vibrio, di ba? Yan. Vibrio cholerae, yan. Comma form siya or comma shape. Ayan. Comma. No? So, laging tinatanong yan sa Gen Ed Science at baka matanong din yan sa inyong majorship. Okay? So, these are some others. My Spiraceae, Filamentous, we also have budding and appendage bacteria. Okay? So, next. What do you call the saddle-like structure on the body of earthworm along the 32 to 37 segments where eggs are fertilized and later on hatch into larvae? A. Clitellum, B. Parapodia, C. Prostomium, D. Setae or Setae. Yes. Okay. Syempre, that is your Clitellum. Okay. So, this is actually the segment. So, tignan natin yung Clitellum. So, basically, segment siya. Okay. Okay. This is actually segment in Lumbricus terrestris or what we call earthworm. Okay. Na kung saan, ayan, ginagamit yan for where egg are fertilized or later on hatched into larvae. So, that is Clitellum. Okay. Okay. Yung Setae, sa ano yan eh, usually sa, if I'm not mistaken, this is also part of the, sa digestive, no? Sa digestive part ng ating earthworm. Okay. I think I have a visual about Setae. Later, tingnan natin. So question, ano ba ang klase ng tawag dito, ng digestion ng mga earthworm? Is it internal or external digestion? Baka matanong sa board exam. Is it internal or external digestion? Pakilagay niya sa chat box. Is it internal or external? Okay. Basta may digestion. O nga, external or internal? That's correct. No, external digestion. Okay? So it's not internal digestion. Okay, next. A teacher will show the different integuments of animals to his students, which will be the best visual aid. A. Micro techniques. B. Herbarium. C. Taxidermy. D. Aquarium. Okay? That is correct. Yes. Tama kayo dyan. Taxidermy. And usually when you go for natural museum, for example, yan, nakakakita kayo ng mga taxidermy to preserve, no? As part of preservation ng mga skin, for example, ng mga animals. Herbarium, yan, yung nagpapatuyo kayo to preserve also the, for example, different species of plants. Usually those plants with leaves, no? To identify, for example, to identify them, like for example, using their local name, their scientific name. We also have aquarium, and of course, you also have your terrarium. So lahat ng mga to is bahagi ng instructional resources ninyo in science as part of our, saan natin ito inaaral? As part of our microtechniques, no? So mga microtechniques or bio. Okay? Next, two bacteria undergo binary fission. How many cells are produced in the process? Okay, what's the answer? 2, 4, 6, or 8? Okay, dahil binary fission, okay, okay, that will be 4. Okay, kasi dalawa, magba-binary fission yan, magkakaroon kayo ng 4. So 2 bacteria times 2, that will actually 4. Okay, letter B. Okay, letter B. Remember, pag binary fission yung isa, magiging dalawa. Eh, ang tanong, dalawang bacteria. So, yung dalawang bacteria, magiging 4. Okay? Binary. By dalawa. Okay? Next, which will thrive in temperature exceeding a 30 degrees Celsius? These are example of archaebacteria. Okay? A. Thermophiles. B. Methanogens. C. Acidophiles. D. Halophiles. Okay, basta temperature, extreme temperature, yan, thermometer, thermophiles. Okay, that's correct. How about pag they want to live in an acidic environment? Acidic environment naman ang tanong. Okay, pag acidic environment, acido. Okay, acidophiles. Acidophiles. Paano naman pag gustong-gusto nila yung methane? Methane. Siyempre, very obvious naman, sir. Methanogens. And of course, halophiles. Yan yung mga salt-loving bacteria. So, salt-loving bacteria, halophilic or halophiles. Alright? So, these are some, no, classification of thermophiles based on temperature. We have less than 55 degrees Celsius. We have mesophiles, moderate mesophiles. We also have here extreme thermophiles and hyperthermophiles. Some typical examples are E. coli, Bacillus thermophilus, thermophilus, and Pyrococcus furiosus. So usually sa mga hydrothermal vent, sa mga volcano. Yan. Okay? Next, which is an example of a salt-loving characteristic? Methanobacterium, thermoplasma, halobacterium, ferroplasma. Siyempre, nasabi na natin yan. That is halobacterium. Okay, halophilic, salt-loving. Example is Halobacterium salinario. Ayan, no, salt-loving yan. These are bacteria that really want to thrive or want to really live, no, in salty environment. Next question. Water is an organic compound because it A. Contains carbon attached to hydrogen and oxygen. B. Contains hydrogen and oxygen only without carbon. C. Can form solutions when mixed with solutes. D. Is found in bodies of organisms. Of course. Dahil inorganic compound yan, that is containing hydrogen and oxygen only. Tinanong naman, last board exam, ano naman daw yung inorganic compound which is, ano sabi niya? Which is considered an excellent solvent. Anong isasagot mo? What inorganic compound is considered an excellent solvent? So your answer would be water. No? Tinanong yan ng board, ng PRC. Question, what is the chemical name for water? What is the chemical name for water? Ayan yun. May isa pang term, sir. Yan nga. Yun ba yung tinatanong mo is? The chemical term for water? Yes, dihydrogen monoxide. So because that is H2O. Sir, bakit yun hindi universal ang ginamit? Bakit excellent? O si PRC updated na rin, di ba? Di ba, as teachers, iniiwasan natin yung paggamit ng universal solvent. Why? Tanungin kita. Pag ba, for example, okay, para makita ko na yung second, ano yung, for example, ilalagay ko sa tubig tong mouse. Will it be dissolved in water? Madi-dissolve ba yun sa water pag yung mouse nilagay mo? O kaya yung ballpen mo? O kaya yung pointer mo? No? Hindi, di ba? So when you see kasi universal, the term is true to all. So kung true to all, universal, di lahat dapat ng ng material pwede niyang ma-dissolve. Hindi. Okay? So therefore, hindi siya universal. So excellent solvent ang gagamitin. Okay? So ano pa? Ano pang pwedeng term nga natin doon sa water? Sige, isipin mo yan, Ace. Parang hindi ko maisip ano yung, ano pa. Maaalala mo yan. Sige, chat mo ako dyan. Assignment mo yan. Kung ano ba yung term natin pa sa water. Basta pag nakita niya excellent solvent and it's inorganic, that is water. Okay? Next. Ayan, so organic versus inorganic. Basta organic, usually carbon-based, contains carbon. No? Example, your wood gas, diamonds, petroleum. While for inorganic, oxygen gas, metals, rocks, and water. Okay? Next, which is true for archaebacteria? Which is true for archaebacteria? A, peptidoglycan is absent in the cell wall. B, chitin is present in the cell wall. C, eukaryotic in nature. D, colonial in structure. Alright. Ang hinahanap natin is true, no? So the rest are not true, but this one is true. So be careful with these kind of questions. Which is true, which of the all of the following are true, except may mga ganyan. So you have to check the the words. So therefore, lagi natin sinasabi, eubacteria, sila ang may peptidoglycan. Okay? And so, archaebacteria, wala silang peptidoglycan sa cell wall. And that is true. Okay? Because chitin is present in the cell wall, that's not true because that is fungi. Eukaryotic in nature, that's not true for archaebacteria, there are prokaryotic. And colonial in structure, no, that is not true. Okay? So the answer is letter A. Tatandaan. Okay, next. Ayan, alam na natin yan, no? A polymer of disaccharide, ang peptidoglycan, which is also known as murine. Okay? Next. Which disease is not caused by virus? Which disease is not caused by virus? A, chickenpox. B, dengue. C, mumps. D, malaria. I can see D. I can see D. A lot of D's. That's correct. Ano siya, therefore? Pakichat nyo nga sa ating chat box. Kung hindi siya caused by virus, cause siya ng ano? Pag yun yung tanong, biniligtad ang tanong ng PRC. That is correct. So therefore, ano ang plasmodium? What is a plasmodium? What type of organism is a plasmodium? The answer is protist. That's correct. Okay, again, chickenpox virus, dengue virus, mumps virus, malaria protist. What is the protist? Plasmodium. What is the protist? Plasmodium. Okay, so malaria, this is parasitic protozoa called the plasmodium, no? Belonging to the plasmodium type. Again, parasitic protozoa, and a protozoa is a protist. Okay, while dengue virus, no, or DENV is the cause of dengue. So the dengue fever is caused by the dengue virus, a mosquito-borne single positive stranded RNA virus of the family Flaviviridae or genus Flavivirus. So that is your dengue. Question, what particular species of mosquito is the vector for the for these particular virus? Anong species na natin yon? That is your Aedes aegypti. So that your Aedes aegypti, dengue, Anopheles mosquito, malaria. Okay, next. Mumps naman is a viral disease caused by the mumps virus. virus. Initial signs and symptoms often include your fever, muscle pain, headache, and feeling tired. So that is your swollen gland. This is the normal one. Ano na nga yung mom sa sa Filipino? Yeah, 'di ba? Your beke. Okay? So beke or your moms. So viral din. And of course, your chickenpox, also known as varicella. So pag tinanong sa board exam, chickenpox is also known as blank. Ang sagot, varicella. Parang one time, parang na-recall ko may ganyang tanong. Okay. Why? It's a highly contagious disease caused by the initial infection with varicella zoster virus or VZV. Sabi dito sa chat box ni Rihanna, never again. Ayan. Nag-iiwan ng bako. Bako is probably parang andyan pa yung parang bakas ng kahapon, gano'n. Ayan. So, what was the initial cause by initial infection nito is of course your varicella zoster virus. Wala pa yung example mo, sir. Oo nga. Hindi pa to, no? Hindi pa to. It's not the worst, no? Meron pang mas worse. Okay. Which is being studied in the classroom if a hay infusion is being prepared. A virus, B protease, C bacteria, D bacteria. Oh, what's your answer? Okay. Yes, that's correct. Of course, protease. So pag hay infusion, initially, of course, we're actually trying to see a lot of different species of protease under the kingdom Protista. Yan, yung hay infusion. Ano ba yung hay? Yung dayami. And then you can get pond water, no? Para ilagay dito sa butter or sa jar. No? Examples ng mga pwedeng makita, no, ng mga protease are algae and protozoa. Okay, so examples ng mga algae, you have your Euglena, diatoms, Spirogyra, ayan, Cendesmos, Cladomonas, and Volvox. And then some protozoa that you can also find, you also have your Paramecium, Stylonchia, Amoeba, Vorticella, and Heteronema. So how do you call again the study of protists? Sige nga, pakilagay nga. Kung natatandaan, how do you call the study of protists? Natatandaan niyo pa ba? It's actually protistology, diba? So, pero may mga ano yun. Like, for example, if you want to go for algae, you can have, for example, phycology. Yan, mga yan. Fungi naman, what's the difference between the fungi, algae, and the protozoa and their protists? No? Although algae and protozoa belong to the same kingdom, kingdom Protista, fungi, of course, in kingdom fungi. So algae is actually photoautotroph, while protozoa is chemoheterotroph. So therefore, algae can manufacture its own food, protozoa cannot. It's a heterotroph, including fungi as well. So basically, the food acquisition is more absorptive, pare-pareho, while protozoa sometimes is ingestive or using cytostome or cytostome. Okay? So for characteristic features, sexual and sexual spores, ito pigments, ang kanyang characteristic feature, and then protozoa motility or movement, then some for cysts. Okay? So this is just their differences. Okay? Next question. Meron pa ba tayong tanong? Ayan. We also have animal-like protists like Chaos defluens. We also have plant-like protists like Eupodiscus radiatus, the fungus-like Foligo septica, and multicellular seaweed like Focus vesicolios. These are protists belonging to the kingdom Protista, and the study called the protistology or scientific discipline devoted to the study of protists, a highly diverse group of eukaryotic organisms, and all eukaryotes apart from animals, plants, and fungi are considered protists. Okay? So next, which does not belong to the group? A, capsule, B, cell wall, C, ribosomes, D, cell membrane. Okay. Letter A daw. Sige, may C. Ano kaya naiba? Palagay ninyo, capsule, cell wall, ribosome, cell membrane. So what makes it different? It's because it's not a cell covering. Diba? It's not part of the cell covering or cell envelope. So the answer is letter C. Capsule, cell wall, cell membrane are actually a group of structure that envelope or covers a particular cell. Okay, ayan no, diba? Ribosome, but you can see here the capsule, and then you have your cell wall, and then you have your plasma membrane. Okay, huwag kakalimutan. Next, 4 bacteria undergo binary fission. How many cells are produced in the process? Okay. Ayan, alam nyo na yan ha. O, 4 times 2 is 8. Yun lang yun, no? Napakadali. So that is letter D. That's correct. Ayan, so that's part of your binary fission. Which is true for methanogen. Which is true for methanogen. Uses methane in metabolism, converts methane to sulfuric acid, releases methane as byproduct, disrupts methane production in bioremediation. Gagaling daw sa math, sabi ni Ace. So, ano yung totoo sa mga methanogen dyan? Letter? Anong sinasagot ninyo? Okay, medyo hindi nila alam. Sige lang. Actually, it's letter C, no? Releases methane as byproduct. So that is actually true for methanogen. It's a capacity to release methane as its byproduct. So an anaerobic microorganism that grows in the presence of carbon dioxide produces methane gas. So nagre-release siya ng methane gas as byproduct. So they are found in the stomach of cows, in swamp mud, and in other environment in which oxygen is not present. Kaya siya anaerobic or anaerobic microorganism. It can thrive without oxygen. Kaya siya anaerobic. Okay? So these are some examples, no? Ano lang yan, just mga representative species. Like for example, Methanococcus maripaludis, you have Methanocelia paludicola, then Halobacterium salinarium. Ito, very familiar. Halobacterium salinarium. Okay? Next, a bacterium divides in 2 planes. What will happen? A, tetrad. B, sarcinae. C, diplococci. D, staphylococci. This is microbiology. So pag na-divide siya into 2 planes, ano yon? What will happen? That will give you what? All right. So in 2 planes, that will give you, that is correct, tetrad. Okay. So tingnan natin. So pag 2 planes, no? Pag pair lang of cells divide in 1 plane only, so that is Diplococcus or Diplococci. While pag chain ng cell dividing in 1 plane several times, okay, Streptococci or Streptococcus. Pag divide in 2 plane, okay, that is your tetrad. No? So dividing in 2 plane tetrad. Divide in 3 planes, that is your sarcinae. Okay. And then divide in many planes and remain together as a cluster, that is your staphylococci or staphylococcus. Okay? So again, divide in 2 planes, tetrad. Next question. How are animals different from plants? Different from plants. A, they are sessile. B, their body is brown. C, they are heterotrophic. D, they have a heart. Yes, diba? Very easy question. They are heterotrophic. Okay? Animals are heterotrophic compared to plants. Okay? Question, what do you mean by sessile? Nandun lang. Staying. No? Unlocomotory. Like sponges. Phylum Porifera are sessile animals. Okay? Of course, heart. Meron tayong heart. How many heart do you have? Ilang heart meron ka? Okay, isa lang. So, dapat ang minamahal mo, isa lang. Diba? Unless, isa kang earthworm. Ilan ba ang puso ng earthworm? How many hearts? Ang earthworm. Talipanda, sabi dito. Oh, okay, diba? Meron siyang 5. Okay. How about octopus? Ilan naman sa octopus? O, isipin mo kung earthworm, 5 yung minamahal mo, diba? O, octopus, ilan? 3. Kung 3 minamahal mo, isa kang Pugita. Tama ba? Pugita ba yung octopus in Filipino? Then pusit yung screen. So, ayan. Gawin niyo ako earthworm daw. Okay, sige, next question. Which tissue is specialized to carry out the message sent by neuron to lift a book? A, nervous. B, muscular. C, epithelial. D, connected. Okay, what is that? Okay. Oh, ano na? What is that? What's the answer? Of course. Hmm? Which tissue is specialized to carry out the message sent by neurons? So, pag ganon, these are actually nervous tissues, no? Which actually specialize to carry the message sent by neurons to lift a book. So that's part of your nervous system. Okay. I'd like also to show you, this timeline for some selected hominins. And you can see, I'd like to direct your attention to this one, the Homo sapiens. And so basically the basis now for the modern classification of humans is, of course, the Homo sapiens same. But of course, there are several species which were discovered, like Homo neanderthalensis. You also have Homo erectus, Homo ergaster, Homo habilis, and Homo rhodolfensis, among others. Okay, and the recent, which was recently discovered in the Philippines, specifically in Luzon, in Calao Cave in Cagayan, just in case lang matanong ng PRC. Now, what a species is that? That is Homo luzonensis. Okay, so ang sasagot sa board exam, Homo luzonensis. Baka itanong sa board exam. Okay? So, prior to that, meron din nakita sa Indonesia, sa in Flores. So, Homo florescensis naman. Okay? Next. Which chamber of the heart receives oxygenated blood? Which chamber of the heart receives oxygenated blood? Ayan. We're down to the last few questions. Okay. So, nagre-receive ng oxygenated blood is, of course, your letter, yes, left atrium. Okay, so the left atrium actually receives oxygenated blood. O, sige, tingnan nga natin. Ayan. So, for the left atrium, so kung titignan natin dito, we have here the oxygenated blood, which actually represented by red, and the oxygenated blood represented by blue. So the oxygenated blood is being received by the left atrium, while the deoxygenated blood is being received by the right atrium. So here you can further see that we have, of course, the upper chambers of the heart. We have the right and the left atrium. As you know, right atrium receives the deoxygenated, while the left atrium receives the oxygenated. So pag sinabing oxygenated, it contains oxygen, while deoxygenated, depleted yung oxygen. So sa right atrium, nire-receive yung deoxygenated blood from the body through the superior vena cava or inferior vena cava. So pag sa superior vena cava, that's from the body through head and upper body, while inferior through legs and lower torso. While for the left atrium, oxygenated blood from the lungs through the pulmonary vein. Question. What is considered to be the largest artery in the body? What is considered to be the largest artery? Pag yun ang tanong ng board exam, what is the answer? Largest artery is? Yes, aorta. Ito siya. No? So aorta is the largest artery. Okay, question. What is the largest vein? What is the largest vein? The largest vein is the vena cava. O, sige, anong mas malaki? Superior vena cava or inferior vena cava? Pag tinanong din yon sa board. What is larger? Is it the superior or the inferior? Actually, it's the, sige nga, hulaan nyo kung hindi alam. Sige, tingnan natin kung magaling ang hula nyo. Okay. It's actually the inferior vena cava. So inferior vena cava is larger larger than the superior, therefore inferior vena cava is the largest chamber, the largest vein. Question: how many chambers do we have in the heart? How many chambers do we have in the heart? So yun ang tanong sa board. Gen Ed Science, pwedeng matanong to. Of course, you have 4 chambers. No? So you have your left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, and then right ventricle. Okay? Other term for, ano yung sa tanong ko? Sige, mamaya. Next. We are down to the last few questions, no? Ayan, sasakto lang. After fertilization, where would the zygote be implanted? A, fallopian tube, B, wall of uterus, C, lining of vagina, D, cervix. Of course, this is a very easy question. This is actually elementary question. So that is wall of uterus. In Filipino, how do we call it? Can you type it in the chat box? Uterus is also known in Filipino as bahay. Yes, bahay bata, where actually the zygote is being implanted. Okay? Other term for zygote. Other term for zygote. Can you put it in the chat box? Other term for zygote. That is already the what? Your embryo. Or basically that is your fertilized. Okay. Daan na. So, di ba, remember nyo yung ating question last time, no? From from what phase to what phase. So, first, of course, kailangan munang magkaroon ng fertilization. Ano yung i-fertilize? Of course, your gametes, di ba? The gametes are your sperm cell plus the egg cell. So, the union of sperm cell and egg cell will actually happen through the process of fertilization. Kapag sa test tube gagawin yung fertilization, we call it what again? If it's test tube, use of test tube, that's in vitro fertilization. Before later on, i-implant yon sa uterus. So, magkakaroon muna ng in vitro fertilization. So, outside, di ba? Outside gagawin, test tube, that's in vitro. Pag naman, agad-agad doon sa tawag dito internally, no, without the use of outside materials, nagkakaroon tayo ng in vivo fertility. Okay? So next, so pag nagkaroon na ng natapos na nag-unite na yung gametes, meron na tayong process of fertilization, yeah. And then that particular process will give you now the zygote or the single cell or the fertilized cell. Then that zygote will actually develop into cleavage. Okay? And then that particular cleavage will become now the embryo. And then eventually, yung embryo na yan, day 7, embryo starts implantation, then it will develop into fetus, and eventually after, how many months? Ilang months ito? Bago siya ma-release. Ma-release talaga, no? Bago siya ma-deliver, 9 months. Okay. Pwede bang 7 months? Hindi 9. Pwede bang 7 months? Earlier than 9? Pwede naman. Okay. Premature baby. No? Okay, tinatawag nila sa Pilipina, pito-pito. Anong mas okay? 7 or 8 months. Yes, wag lang 8. Okay, kasi medyo, yon, delikado. So, pito-pito kaysa 8-8. Alright, that's correct. Okay, sige. Next, meron pa ba tayong tanong? Ayan, did you know that it is also possible that there will be twins from different fathers? We call the phenomenon heteropaternal superfecundation. Remember the word fecundation, di ba? Okay. Okay, fecundation is to impregnate. So heteropaternal is a condition in which a mother gives birth to twins, both of which are from a different father. For example, nung first month, siya, no? For example, the first day of the first month, nakipag-sex ang nanay. Oh. And then eventually, kunyari, nung the last day of the same month, nakipag-sex siya sa other male, for example. Okay, and then it will have a possibility na magkakaroon ng heteropaternal superfecundation. But again, this is very uncommon to humans. Usually ito sa mga aso and other form of and other animals. Okay, anong kaguluhan yan? Alright, so wag lang immature. Okay. Okay, premature. Yeah. So, immature, diba? Oh. Alright, sige. So that is for heteropaternal superfecundation. Okay, so yun lang naman, no, for tonight. Okay. So I hope na merong nadagdag sa inyong mga kaalaman. So keep coming top the board exam. Alright, so basically, magkakaroon ulit tayo tomorrow, no, para hindi naman kayo ma-info overload. We will have another review tomorrow. Gagabi-gabihin na natin ito para at least ma-remember natin yung mga basic concepts sa ating biology. Especially, may mga iba pang parts tayo ng bio. So I have prepared the slides now for our succeeding discussions for this majorship. Any questions thus far? May tanong ba kayo? Meron ba? Okay, if wala, I'll stop recording.